The opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm not here to have any input on who should run the event or when it should be or any of those types of things. I'm here to comment on last year's event, and it could have some bearing on this year's event, I believe. I've been associated with Reggae on the River for a number of years. I was a deputy sheriff and worked it occasionally on overtime basis, and then about 1997 I was stationed in Garberville as the sergeant of the station there, such as the commander of the area. So from 97 until about 2003 I worked very closely with Mateo and People's Productions on producing this event. I'd like to say from the onset that I always felt and still do feel it's a very well-run event. I think that they produce it very well. Again, I'm not saying who's producing what, but People's Productions always did a very good job of producing the event. My concern was last year after receiving the after-action report. I might add that we've always known that there were issues with the event as far as numbers of people attending. We can never verify that just based on overflights of the area, pictures from above, and the number of people going in and out of the event. We always felt that it was much more than the 10,500 tickets that were sold. We've always estimated to be between 15 and 20,000 people that attend this event, keeping in mind that you have volunteers, vendors, backstage passes, that type of thing. My understanding after meeting with representative of People's Productions just a week or two ago, that those wristbands for vendors and volunteers and that type of thing were never numbered, and that they plan on numbering them this year. So you have the 10,500 tickets that are numbered, then you have an additional, the estimates that I got for volunteers alone was somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 volunteers. And if you volunteer for a certain amount of time there, then you would get a wristband at the end of the event. So I'm basing my estimate on those numbers plus the heavy impact it has on the area anyway, having people come in who are non-ticket holders. The other issue from last year was the drug issue. It seemed to be much more prevalent than in the past. And the thing that drew my attention to it was not only the after-action report prepared by Sergeant Swithenbank, but he also attached articles from both the Eureka Reporter and the Time Standard, which both indicate a problem. They both indicate open drug, passing around of drugs, trays of marijuana, LSD. Again, I was not in there. I'm just basing it on what the newspaper said. We did have a couple of off-duty deputies who went in there on their own time and were presented with the same thing. Open trays, people passing out LSD, marijuana, mushrooms, that type of thing. So my concern at that point is once something like that's in the paper, the cat's kind of out of the bag. I feel that the Sheriff's Department has a responsibility to the people of Humboldt County and to those coming here to recreate to provide a level of safety. My issue, and I've talked to the sheriff extensively about it. In fact, the Sheriff Philp also prepared a letter to Mr. Gerard dated March 2nd of 07 regarding this very issue. My concern, again, is providing safety for those that go to the event. So the thing that the Sheriff and I have been talking about is A, having a much bigger presence there at the event. I'm talking about actually putting a command post down in the event where we've never done that before. We have a command band now that has all types of radio operability and that type of thing, and I feel that we could actually place a command post much closer inside the event for high visibility to try and curb this type of thing. Again, our concerns are not for whether the event takes place or not. Again, it's been a very well-run event in the past. Our concerns are for the safety of those that appear and come to the event. So I also just returned today, in fact, from a state sheriff's meeting in Sacramento and had a chance to sit and talk with Sheriff Allman from Mendocino County. This event also impacts his county, obviously, his permit does not come through Humboldt County, but he shares concerns for this year's event. So with that said, I'm willing to answer any questions you might have of me, but again, the sheriff is very concerned about providing safety for this event and being able to ensure that those that attend have a good experience also.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Commissioner Kelly?
I'm curious, Sheriff, how you think it would work next year at the same attendance level that we had last year if you were to have a command center inside the venue, where you're much more visible, and probably would have quite a few officers, uniformed officers there. How do you think that would be received? And I'm wondering if, curious what your opinion is.
Well, as far as being received, I don't know how to answer that for sure. I do know that, Planning Commission administers the permits, and the sheriff's office signs off on that permit process. We have a responsibility when we sign off on that permit process. I don't know how else to really address the issue other than high visibility.
What I'm curious about is, based on the attendance that you've seen there, one of the questions we have to answer is, what should the attendance level be for this year?
I see.
What would be your opinion about that with regard to setting up the answer inside and the venue in general?
Well, the venue where it's set up now, I don't see a problem with us with the same attendance level as last year. Obviously, a lower attendance level would be easier to maintain, easier to operate in, but I think we could deal with that. I'm not looking at a presence where we are necessarily everywhere inside the event, all the camping sites, that type of thing. I'm looking for a visible presence at the main part of the venue. As people come in and come out, they know that the sheriff's office is there. We have the ability to respond if there's a problem inside the event, and we will respond. That's the basis of what I'm proposing.
Commissioner Maria?
Yes, in the past, any activity by public safety is an extra cost, but it's outside the norm, and it's been covered by the production itself past years.
Yes.
And so presumably, one of the things we would be considering also is that any public service entity remain whole. Don't be going to the red on this one, and that we would anticipate that whatever changes we make, which require public service levels, would include the requirement that the festival pay for those costs.
That's correct.
We have a letter in our packet from the Sheriff's Department. Well, I guess it's a letter to you from a sergeant, and it says, I'll just read this out loud for the people in the audience who don't have a copy of it. I'm just going to take, it's about 3 pages, so it's lengthy. I'll just take the second to last paragraph, but it says, in past recent years, I've attended the event while off duty. I was very surprised at the amount of drug usage taking place and the openness in which drugs were being used. Concealing one's drugs did not appear to be a concern for concert goers at all, nor was the location in which they used drugs, which was basically anywhere they wanted. What was even more surprising was the ballpark atmosphere in which the drugs were being sold. While walking down the main entrance exit path, I was bombarded with several offers to buy ecstasy, mushrooms, acid, and marijuana. I saw several subjects carrying their drugs in trays and boxes as if they were selling hot dogs at a professional sporting event. Some of these subjects also carried signs describing and offering their drugs for sale, while others verbally called out to the crowd the type of drugs they were selling and for how much. I did not attend the 2006 event. However, I spoke to off-duty deputies that did, and it appears the drug problem was just as prevalent as ever. I was informed that